you're here grieving in 2025, there's one core idea that will be a game changer to moving forward through your grief.
But beware, it feels completely unnatural. Stick around, enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Good Grief Couch. My name's Ryan, this is my wife Kaylee.
Hey everyone.
If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you here. We're grateful you found us. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, if it was Instagram, if it was just you're searching Spotify, if someone recommended you.
Were you in our Facebook group? Are you on our emails?
Are you in our Good Grief Club? I don't know.
Yeah. Are you a friend of a friend of a friend?
No matter how you found us, we're grateful you made it here. And we believe that these lessons over the next number of minutes are going to help you in and through your grief. If you're returning as one of our family members here at Good Grief, it's great to have you here as well. And if you haven't yet, please rate or review the podcast. It really encourages us, but it also spreads the word to more people going through grief. And that's our whole mission here.
Yeah, totally.
At Good Grief. How you doing, my love?
Oh, I am good. I'm wearing one of my pregnancy dresses that I don't fit quite so well anymore, but here we are. We're about to get stuck in. What happened on the weekend?
Well, there was a huge storm that tried to ruin all of our plans and literally rain on our parade as we were gearing up for our meet and grief event. We had an incredible day, and despite the rain and the storm, at our church, we actually held it in our church cafe. So last year, our first event, we held publicly in a cafe.
Yeah.
There were dogs and kids and
parks and
all sorts of crazy stuff happening. This time round, we hired out our church cafe. We brought one of our favourite friends in our home group, Gemma, to grind up some fresh beans and deliver some delicious coffees.
But a hug in a cup, as people sometimes like to call it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a private space, and we got to create our own atmosphere, and it was just incredible as we welcomed these women through the doors to hang out with us.
It was so nice and intimate, and people just connected straight away, and that's what we're all about. It was so, so beautiful. And you can just see things happening as soon as people connect, can't you?
You can see it in their face.
Yeah.
You can see it in their body language.
Yeah.
You can feel it in the air, literally, and you sense the atmosphere shift.
There's either tears or joy and laughter or yes, same, yeah.
And literally, as we facilitate these sorts of events, we notice it change from anxiety and fear and worry to a place of faith and a bit more confidence and comfort as well. And so it's a really special shift to be a part of facilitating and noticing.
Can you tell me tell our audience what happened the day before?
Well, I want to probably wind the clock back years before.
Okay.
Because the reason why, and I want to get to that story, is because when we make our way through grief, or when we get thrown into grief, we don't get given a guidebook or a manual that tells us, I think about those choose your own journey adventure books, right? Where you could literally find your way through, and all roads led to some sort of path out of those adventures. You don't get that in grief. And so we're sort of left, and maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast or you're watching on YouTube. It's like, how do I can't see a path forward. I can't see a brighter horizon. How do I do it? And so I just think back to when I was in school, and I was not the smartest tool in the toolbox. I'll say that.
What?
I'm still.
You're telling me this now?
I'm still not.
Still learning.
And so thanks for picking me up. But I wasn't, and it wasn't I don't know about you, you're sharper than I am by far, but
only a couple of points.
School was not it was my happy place, but it was not my smart place. And so I was out of the classroom more than I was.
There were certain subjects that were my smart place, but not.
And maybe if you're listening, you can relate. I couldn't relate to someone just writing on the board and then telling us to turn to a page. And so I developed this, I guess, model that if I could sit next to someone smarter than me and just peer over their shoulder a little bit and ask questions in their ear, I could get pulled along for the ride. And so it happened to be my best mate in high school, Ryan, funnily enough.
Bumped into him 2 weeks ago.
We bumped into him 2 weeks ago after about 5 or 7 years since seeing him. And
you were like, hey, what are you learning? Can you tell me? No, not really, but
yes. But he was way smarter than me.
But we could have, because they've had one more child than us, so we could have lent on them for parenting advice.
He was way smarter than me, and so I would literally just be over his shoulder and in his ear, like, what page are we on? What did she just say that I missed? Like, and that was how I made it through. And like, I made it through school.
Holding on someone's coattails.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I failed art.
Funnily enough.
A little bit, crazy story. I'll tell that another day.
Yeah.
But I made it through. And so if you're listening, maybe it's worth reflecting on some of those areas in life that you weren't naturally gifted at, that you happen to make it through somehow. And we want to share that story because it's like that in grief. And if you can grab onto somebody else's coattails, as Kaylee just said, or peer over their shoulder, or listen in and ask them questions.
Or lean on them, like that song, Lean on Me.
Totally. That is a sure, fast method to making it through. Okay? Someone who is a few steps ahead of you on the journey to help you along.
And this is what you did actually after you lost your dad.
Yeah, I went searching. I was like, I just need to find another guy my age or similar, period in life.
Yeah, you went door knocking. No,
yeah,
really.
I was like, did I? I'm like, I can't remember that story. I'm like, I have door knocked, but not for grief.
Excuse me.
I have not door knocked for grief. No. When I was a personal trainer, we door knocked on businesses. Okay, so that's another story for another time. But yeah, I went searching and I found a guy named Isaac. He was a Christian. He was, similar age to me, lost his dad a couple of years before. And I was like, dude, I'm like, how are you? And he said, I'm doing all right. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're doing all right? How could that? He's like, yeah, like, things have been hard, but this is what, and I'm getting married. And I'm like, you're getting married? You mean you found the love of your life and have been able to ask her to marry you and you're excited for this? Like, this is happening? And he's like, yeah.
All while grieving?
Yeah. And he's like, by the grace of God and by other people helping me along. And so for me to find him and just see that it was possible to find hope again gave me what I needed to take the next step forward.
I was actually chatting with one of our community members, Holly, and we were talking about how our grief has actually brought us to where we are now. Like, I was saying how Mum's not here to see me walking in what I feel is my calling from God now, but I wouldn't be doing this calling if I hadn't lost her. You and I wouldn't have started Good Grief. We wouldn't be doing this if you and I had both lost a parent. And Holly's like, yeah, same. If I hadn't lost my dad, I don't think I actually would have met my husband, who I'm totally in love with and love my life now.
Whoa.
That wouldn't have happened if I lost my dad. My life was so different before Dad passed. And
I'm just having the thought, we may not have connected on the same level.
Yeah.
If only one of us had lost, been through it.
Totally.
Maybe that was the connection that we were like, whoa, that's what we were really looking for.
And so maybe as a side note, this could be an encouragement for you in your grief that something good is going to come from it, that you may not be the same person again, but God has a plan and there's roses on the other side. Something else is going to come from this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just circling back to our meet and grief on the weekend, you mentioned one of the women that came.
Yeah.
Veronica, she's part of our church family, and it was 10 weeks ago that she lost her husband suddenly and tragically.
Rocked our church.
Yeah. And I had the honor of spending time with her husband over the short time that I got to know him as well. And yeah, absolutely rocked our church. And in the midst of that, her landlord needed to move back in, and so she has had to move home, and like so much upheaval and change and decisions that need to be made in a short period of time while looking after two teenage kids.
Yeah.
Just so much. And I know so many women can relate to this. But we got her number of our pastors because we wanted to invite her along, and I sent her a message at 12:04 p.m. on Friday. The event was happening at 9:30 a.m. Saturday, so like less than 24 hours before the event.
And we know for some people who are 10 weeks into their grief, like wouldn't touch or receive a message like this with a 10-foot pole, you know? So like we wouldn't just normally reach out to anyone, but we just felt God leading us to invite her, hey.
Totally. And being part of our church family, we had a third-party relationship in some way, shape or form, if that makes sense. So I sent this text 12:04 on the Friday. I get a text message back 9 minutes later, 12:13, saying, that's so funny. I was just picking up a box and clearing it, and there was a grief book on it. And I picked it up and flicked it open, and it said, "It's good to meet with others early in your grief." And she said, I closed that book and I put it down and I said, I am never going to something like that. And she said, a moment later, ping, her iPhone went off, and it was my text message that literally came through as she put this book down, inviting her to our meet and grief, literally within 24 hours the next day.
Like, you can't write this stuff.
And she said, she wrote back and she just said, that's so funny. She's like, I think God's sending me the message I needed today. I'd love to be there. So I sent her the details and she said, you know what? I wouldn't have actually been able to make it tomorrow for my son because he's got rugby on. But because of the storm that's happening, it's just been cancelled. So she said, I feel God double set me up to make sure that I would be there.
Right.
And so we just want to shout out to Veronica. Like, we're so inspired by her. And that didn't mean it was an easy journey making it either. You know, she pulled up in her car and she still felt anxiety through her body. Even though it's her church, she knows it. She's seen us around, knows us.
Yeah, and there were other familiar faces there too.
That's right. It still was a crippling anxiety, but she took that step of faith out of her car and into the cafe and into all of our arms for a big hug. And just to see and hear from her throughout the day was incredible. And she now sent me a text literally today saying, hey, thanks so much.
When's the next one?
When's the next one? Because I want to invite others to it. And there's people that I know that are going through grief that want to come. She's 10 weeks into her grief journey.
And guys, this is the experience that can happen when you meet with people who understand.
And I think that's the key. People who understand. Matthew 7 says, don't throw your pearls before swine, or don't throw your pearls before pigs. Why? Because they'll eat it up and poop it out. So when, God's talking about pearls here, if they
don't understand what it is.
If we equate that to your emotions and your feelings, expressing them to other people is important, but not before swine that will eat it up and spit it out. You need a space that is safe, that is gentle, but also people who have been through it, that can hear what you've got on your heart and allow that to sit and resonate, not try and fix all of your world's problems and your feelings and emotions right in 1 second.
You know what else is inspiring about Veronica? I caught her on the way in and was able to say, hey, and we actually hadn't properly met at church or anything. And I just said, I'm just so proud of you for being here. You're inspiring. And she's like, and I said, and you keep turning up to things, like, I'm just so inspired by you. And she said, well, you know what? I just keep thinking, what else would I do? There's no good me sitting at home or just staying in bed crying. Like, that's going to be no good for me. I need to get out and do these things and meet people. I'm like, oh my gosh, who are you?
Yeah. Oh. So, Veronica, if you're listening, we're so inspired by you. And I know...
And I'm sure many others will be by hearing this story of yours.
Yeah. So that was just one of the stories just from Saturday.
Yeah.
And there was another girl there. She's in our home group as well, Jade. And she was there supporting her nan, that has been through multiple different forms of grief and loss.
Yeah, she knows grief well.
Yeah, and thought that she was just coming to support her nan and that her grief was distant and, she felt on top of things, and like, it was healing and so forth. And that morning had a crazy experience, and a friendship, sort of breakdown, long-term friendship breakdown. And she realized while sitting there that I'm not actually here to support my nan, I'm actually here for me. So God's just been doing so much.
And we just have countless stories like this of late. Like God is just using story after story after story that we're hearing like literally every day.
And so if you can't hang out with us in person, that's totally fine. We've got a way bigger community and family of women online in our Good Grief Club and our community that we would love to invite you to.
Absolutely. So if you're like, what is this community thing? Where do I get it? How do I get involved? There's a link below. You can pause this episode and join right now.
Yeah, we'd love to welcome you in. Literally this week or whenever you're listening to it, we'll be having a welcome coffee call. You can come and join us, meet us, meet other
some
women.
of the other ladies.
And just
we'll connect you.
And even just 4 or 5 days ago, last week, 2 women both lost their husbands, both jumped into our community. We connected them. They were able to connect on faith. They both loved Bible and like the study of the Bible, and then realized that they happened to be at this point in time, because one of them was traveling 30 minutes away from each other. 2 widows, 30 minutes away, took a leap of faith to meet for dinner.
Didn't one's family go, is it safe? Is that okay?
So Celeste and Melissa, if you're listening, like these 2 incredible women, Celeste was just saying her family were just, cautious and careful about it. Like, are you sure? Like, is this okay?
Just so valid.
Yeah. And she did it anyway. And they put this photo up in our Good Grief Club of them after having dinner. And I loved what Celeste said about Melissa. She said, I'm so grateful for Melissa and her joyful empathy, and that she is just a few steps ahead of me on this journey. Melissa lost her husband in 2021 and Celeste just in the last couple of months. And to have that connection, started online inside of the community and now in person, just can't stop smiling at all that God's doing. So if you're not in our community, the link is below. Come and join for free. And then if you want more support, you can get that inside there as well. Have you been in any other stories you've been inspired by that you'd like to share?
I had Katie. I reached out to Katie just to welcome her, and she lost her daughter Charlie, 8 years old, and she's beautiful, like pure sunshine. And I just said, how did you find us? Like, I'm so glad God led you here. And she said, you know what? I've been listening to your podcast. And
what's up, Katie?
Hey, Katie. And she said, I've been in the group for a little while, but I've been actually following you on Instagram for even longer. And you guys have just made such an impact on me already. And her daughter Charlie loved Jesus, and Katie's realized that there's been a little bit of a break there in her faith, but because of her daughter, she realizes that she can't let her faith be stopped in this grief journey. And so she's here to be inspired and to be, what's the word? Encouraged, but also when someone keeps you accountable, to her faith. And so she's just like, thank you guys for doing this and for having this community. Like, it's made such an impact on me already.
Yeah, wow.
So stories like this all the time, and it just touches us so much.
I feel like we're just crying all the time because listen to this. The amount of beautiful testimonies coming is just incredible.
Yeah.
And so if I was to be grieving again or grieving for the first time in 2025, the first and major thing that I would do is run to community and connection with somebody that is not going to, like the Bible says, throw pearl before swine, but they're actually going to be able to sit, listen, and understand. And what I love about when you connect with someone who's a few steps further in the journey, they're not just going to try and fix your problems, but they're going to share with you things that have helped for them that you might be able to just try on. And I think that's a great way of thinking about it. Like when you go to buy a jacket in the store you try it on first, and if it fits and it looks good, you'll take that. It's the same when it comes to community that understand, that really get it. So if anything, today, this might be the message you've been looking for.
Yeah.
To, like we shared, Veronica, she put that book down and said, I'm never going to one of those things. But God had other plans for her, and, you know, she's she's finding community, and it's about walking side by side, peeking over the shoulder of somebody else like I did in school.
Yeah, so you might be that person who's hanging on someone's coattails, or you might be the person wearing the coattails, and you might be just a little bit further ahead in your journey, but by you turning around and helping this person because you're just a little bit ahead, that will also help you in your journey too. We've been telling our community that, like, in your journey, healing can start with helping someone else. So we just love this double-edged thing about connecting and community. And if we were back to
day one,
grieving in 2025, that's what we'd be doing.
Totally. Well, I hope this episode has encouraged you and blessed you, and even by some of the stories that we've shared, just encouraged you that hope is available to you, that a future full of meaning and purpose is a reality, even though it may not feel like it right now, and that's okay as well. We totally get that. There were days when we didn't see futures ahead, but we're here to tell you that it does exist, and we're inviting you in. And so this is your invitation to come and join us. If you haven't already, we'd love to connect you with women from all over the world, no matter where you are right now. And we look forward to meeting you on the inside. So
absolutely,
click the link below, and we'll hopefully welcome you in soon. Big love from both of us.
Bye.